the long scheme of things, this season, with everything you've got going on, where does this match rank?
It's the most important game until we play Gillingham on Thursday. It's our next one. We look at the end of the day. We've got a really big week now. We've got obviously the FA Cup game, the second leg of the JPT area final, and then a big game against Fleetwood in the league. But to be honest, it's very difficult to separate them this week because this game's a real one-off for us. So we want to do well in it. The second game's important because there's a potential trophy to win, not just an appearance at Wembley, but we've got to make sure that we're professional like we have been in the other games against Gillingham. And then the Fleetwood game will become even more important because we're joint top of the league at the moment. So we want to get promotion. So very, very difficult to separate them at this moment in time.
Have you got to be careful when you're showing them lads like DVDs of the opposition? You don't scare them too much.
Well, we won't do too much anyway that will scare them. You know, we've got to make them obviously aware of West Ham's strengths and their individual players within that team framework. But we won't do too much different ourselves this weekend. You know, so we've tried to win every game that we've been involved in, and this one will be no different. Winning isn't everything, but trying to win is. So we'll try and do our best in the game.
You're a big Sam fan because a lot of
people,
they had him gone, didn't they?
Yeah, no, I mean, my programme notes this week I've put down that it's fantastic to see that he's getting, some credit for the job he's done. I remember when he first went there and West Ham were in the Championship. So that's a tough enough league as it is to get out of, let alone taking them now to 7th in the Premier League. So he's done a brilliant job wherever he's been. He's done a great job, and it is good to see that he's getting some of the credit now. He deserves it.
Now, what about you as a manager? You seem to have really found your feet here. I mean, you've been there dealing with the big boys, with the baby Bentleys pulling up in the car park every morning. What was the difference with dealing with Premier League players and players in League One? Well,
first of all, the job description is completely different. I've not been a manager there, so I've only ever coached there, which is completely different. So you can't quite have everything how you want it because you're not the manager. So that's the biggest difference for me. As regards dealing with the players, I haven't had to deal with Premier League players because I haven't ever had to discipline them. So it's only when you come into that and you want to get some sort of structure in your football club, how things run. I haven't had to do that. So therefore it's been completely different for me, working at QPR, for instance, a couple of years ago. So it's very difficult to compare. And as for finding your feet, I think that, most of the clubs I've been at, I've found my feet. I think what's happening is because we've gone on a good run here, or we're top of the table, there's more made of it that, this is perfect for me. All the other jobs were fine as well. All the other clubs I've been at were fine. It's just the timing probably of being at those clubs, Portsmouth and Nottingham Forest at the time. You find when you go into a Championship club that are at the bottom of the table, it's really hard to get them out. You've only got to look at how tough it is for Wigan this year and how tough it is for Malky Mackay, for instance. Malky's won that league, yet he's still a fight on his hands now to get out of that bottom three. So once you take over a club that's down in that bottom echelons of the Championship, my God, it's hard to get out of it.
Do you think you're on the verge here of having Bristol's day? Because there's a lot of clubs up and down the country, a lot of cities, towns, Burnley, Blackpool, Wigan, they've had their day. Do you think Bristol's time? Are you on the verge of it?
Well, it would be nice. It would be nice probably more for the owner. When you think about the amount of money that Steve Lansdown's put into this football club, he's probably put the best part of £50 million in it, and had nearly 2 relegations to show. So, to put that amount of money into a football club is huge. And he's putting another £40 million in for the stadium. So he's not going to have too much change, in the last 2 or 3 years and the 2 or 3 years going forward. So he seems to be enjoying himself at this moment in time. So that's pleasing for him because he's a real top guy.
Let's not kid ourselves. Promotion's the aim here, isn't it?
For sure, yeah. Not just promotion, we want to win it.
And finally, talk us through some of your superstitions. What are you like this weekend?
It's probably same pants and socks.
You've just had to touch something now.
Yeah, that's not a superstition. That's my own. I don't know. I mean, a lot was made of it, wasn't it? Superstitions, because something was written earlier on in the season about saluting at magpies. Don't like it if I'm driving to the ground and only see one magpie, mind. I don't know why. I mean, it has had no bearing whatsoever, by the way. I read an interview with Joe Bryan, and someone said, was he superstitious? And about his pre-match meal and that, and he said, well, no, what if I go to a hotel one day and they haven't got scrambled egg? Does that mean I'm going to have a bad game? And I thought, he's so right with that. Why am I worried about whether the same underpants we've won last week are ready and raring to go again this week? It's a load of nonsense, really, all of it, but I'll probably still stick to it.
What do you do then on match day? What have you got to do?
Well, no, I haven't got to do anything particularly. I just got to make sure I wore the pants that we wore when we won last week. That's the big one. It's just the same underpants, but they're washed. They're washed and ready to go again. They're not just left on the side for a week.
You keep them in a separate drawer now?
No, I don't keep them in a separate drawer. I just know which ones they are.
Because they've got Saturday written on them. Good luck.
Thank you.
TVs? Steve, you just said that promotion is of course the priority, but get a result against West Ham, live on television. How big a boost can that be towards achieving your ultimate goals this season?
Well, it would be a huge boost, but we've used those cup games anyway, whether it's been Telford, Gillingham, Doncaster. We've used those anyway to keep our run going. I think it's about not having too many disappointments in your season. And that's how we've looked upon it, really, is not having too many disappointments, not having too many setbacks. So, if we could manage to pull off a win, which we know is going to be extremely difficult, we know that. We've got to play really well. They've got to have an off day. We've got to have a bit of luck. They've got to have no luck. If we can do that, then confidence for the players would be fantastic. We're good at the moment. We're in a good place anyway. But that would be fantastic for them. But for me, for them to go out on the same pitch as West Ham, we've wanted this from the time the FA Cup started. We wanted a Premier League team. It didn't matter whether it was home or away. We wanted a Premier League team. I really wanted it. We've got a lot of young boys in our squad, 20, 21, 22, 23 years of age. And I wanted them to have a proper first team game against Premier League opposition. Because then they'll remember that. They will remember that for a long time, and it will be a great experience for them.
Steve, in the earlier rounds of the Cups, you almost have a plan for 2 or 3 games ahead. So how much will your team selection for West Ham be dictated by the 2 games after that?
Yeah, fair bit. Yeah, I've got those other couple of teams in my head as well. Obviously, you can't legislate for injuries, or I don't want to say sending offs or anything like that, but you have to take that into consideration. But yeah, we've sort of planned ahead, or I have anyway, on the 3 games ahead, because we will need to use our squad. It's another demanding week for us.
You wouldn't say one team is going to be stronger than the other, though. You're mixing and matching for the opposition, presumably.
That might depend on the opposition, mightn't it? The strength in our team.
Okay, broadcasters.